Okay, hello everyone, and for this video we'll be discussing functions. So functions are literally used in programming, not just in Python but in different programming language as well, to make sure to make the processes much easier, readable, and also for a function to be reused again and again. Okay, so by definition, a function is a block of code, and the definition is you can see here. Now, Python functions return a value using a return statement. So there are two types of functions, which is the predefined function and the user-defined function. First is let's discuss what is a predefined function. So when we say predefined function, it is already a built-in to the software and does not need to be created by a developer, meaning there's already a developer who made use of this function or who created this function. And you can see here that we import math, and math is treated as a class, and within a class there are functions. For instance, you can see here that we have set the value of x, u, and v. And you can also see here that format, and when we say a, it will be automatically added here. And you can see here that there is a dot operation. So when we say dot operation, it pertains that it changes the behavior, or it is an existing function. Okay? So when we say upper, it converts a small case letter into a uppercase letter. And let's just run this code. And you can see I've already run this beforehand, so you can already see the output. So the uppercase A is A. So what happened here is this value has been converted into a higher case. This is one of the functions of math. Okay, so the next one is 4.0. So when we say 4.0, this is a floating number. So knowing a floating number, it has decimal points. In Python, in our discussions, there are different data types, which is the float, the boolean, and the string. Okay, so you can see here that we still are using the format operation, and also you can see here that we are outputting the value of u and v, which you can see here. And also the third comma represents the power. So knowing this function math, it has a function .pow. So meaning, when we say .pow, it pertains to a power function. For example, 2 raised to 2, 2 raised to 3. So the value of u here is 4 and the value of v here is 3. So meaning, the 4 raised to 3, which is 4 raised to 3 is equal to 64. And the first parameter is the number, and the integer, and v here is the power. So you can see here, then 4 raised to 3 is equal to 64. And this is what we call predefined function, which there are already existing functions that we can make use to make things much easier. Okay? And also there are other functions. For instance, there x is equal to -15. So knowing in math, when we treat negative value and enter it in an absolute value, what happened here is it converts, or it removes the sign. Okay? So by definition, or even in simple terms, it just remove the sign. So you can see here that the absolute value of -15 is equal to 15. You can see it here. And the abs value here is the absolute value, pertains to the absolute value. And the absolute value, and you can also see here, when you put your cursor in this function, there's already an IntelliSense. When you say IntelliSense, there is a instruction, or it will help you know how the function works. Okay? So return the absolute value of the argument, and the argument here is x. So the value of x is -15. So when we put it in this function, it automatically converts this to a whole number. Okay? So that's basically the definition of a predefined function. There are already existing functions that we can make use. And however, the other one is the user-defined function. So when we say user-defined function, it is a function that we tend to use, or we tend to create. No? We tend to create our own function in order for it to perform a certain behavior. So we'll be going to unpack how this function were created, and we will be creating our own function. Okay? So here, functions that we define ourselves to do certain specific tasks are referred as user-defined function. You know? So there is a keyword def, and then the function name, and the arguments. Okay, so first, let's start off with an example. So first example, write a function that accepts any numbers of arguments. Okay, so you can see here that we use dev or def. This is a stored procedure or a stored word which pertains to a function, and the next one is the function name, which is average. The next one here is the parameter. So when we say parameter, these are the values that we will be adding or putting inside our function. And the asterisk here pertains to a collection. So when we say collection, it pertains that it can receive a value or multiple values of the same data type. For example, an integer and a list, no, in our previous discussion. Okay, so first is we use return statement. So what this does is after the function is created or is used, it will automatically return a value. So that's a value returning function. Okay, so first one. So first, let's say whatever the value put here will be added here, plus the sum of rest, knowing that rest is a list or a collection. Diba? Maraming values. And when we use sum, it will automatically compute for the sum. Okay? And next one, divided by 1 plus len rest. So what it does is, you added 1 here because the first number. And the next one is the length of rest. And that pertains to the total number within the function. And it will compute for the average. So that's the basic definition of how are we going to use this function. Okay, so let's just run this one. So what you can notice here is it doesn't do anything. A function will not work unless we use it. Now, for example, a washing machine. Si washing machine, naghuhugas lang siya or naglilinis lang ng damit. Pero pag hindi mo siya sinaksak o hindi mo siya ginamit, hindi siya maghuhugas ng damit. It same goes with the function. If you don't make use of the function, it will just be there. It will just be on standby. And how are we going to use this function? We'll use function call here on the second line. You can see here, when we run this one, this is 1.5, meaning that the average value 1 and then 2. So ito yung ilalagay na. So mangyari dito, itong first na to magiging, the value niya magiging 1. And yung rest dito, magiging value niya ay 2. Okay? So when we run this one, 1 plus 2 here is equal to 3. Okay? So here is 1 and then ng rest is 2. No? And this is the result. 1.5. Okay? So that's basically how this is being used. Okay, the next one. Since knowing that rest is a collection of values, we can also add multiple values. For instance, itong 1 na ito, papasok to dito sa first. Itong 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it can be treated as a collection of numbers. So, pwede siyang pumasok dito. So, computing for its average, 1 plus 2 plus 3, diba? 6, 10, 15, 21. Divided by the total number of elements, so which is 3.5. Now, I'll be uploading this on our Google class. So the answer here is 3.5. Okay? So the next one, create a function that will check if the number is odd or even. Now, we've already encountered this in our previous discussion or even in our exam. No? And paano nga ba natin malalaman if positive or negative yung number? Malalaman natin, or if odd or even. Malalaman natin siya kung odd or even if may remainder siya. So, if yung remainder ay 0, for example, 20 divided by 2, which is 10. May remainder? Wala. So, ano meaning? It's an even number. And to recreate it in programming, we call it modulo. No? Modulo division. So, for instance, 2 modulo 2. So, what's the remainder? There's no remainder. So, meaning, it's an even number. And if meron siya, and if it's not equal to 0, it means it's odd number. So, you can see it here. So, that's the basic nature. We can do this by this form. And when we run this, so this is the straightforward programming. Okay? So, 4. Oh, number is even. So, how about, what if we create a function, no, that will do this, so that we will not repeat this code block again and again? Okay? So, we can easily create that one using the same steps. Def, and then the function name is even, so this is a question, and then the number parameter. Okay? Oops, there seems to be a mistake. Yan. Okay? So, when we add it here, if num, or whatever number here, is equal to 0, the number is even. And when we run this one, so we use this function call. Let me just comment this one. Now, what will be the output? None. Kasi, hindi natin ginamit yung function. And if we make use of the function is even, then salpakan natin ng number na 4. What would be the result? Yan, the number is even. No? Baka ayaw nyo maniwala, baka hard-coded. Sige, palitan natin ng 3. Yan, the number is odd. So that's basically how we make or recreate functions in Python. Okay? So the next one, value returning function. Actually, we already discussed this one on our kanina. And knowing that function can either return a value or not return a value. For example, this one, it doesn't return a value. No? Because there's no return statement. So, what we did is, and for instance, calculate the sum of the numbers. So, you can see here, I've used a for loop to calculate the sum. And basic nature, and we have return total here. So what it does is it returns only a value. Okay, so let me just run this one. So wala din. So when we print this one, yan, 8. So to know the type, no, this is supposed to be an integer. Yan. Oops, we don't use this one. Hindi natin i-convert. Okay. Let me just remove this one. Oops, we're missing another parenthesis. Ayan. So, it's a class integer because the result is a whole number. So, meaning, whatever this is equal to 8. No? Because it returned a value. So that's basically a value returning function. Okay, so the next one here is writing a function that only accepts a keyword argument. What if we don't want, or what if hindi natin alam kung ano yung nakasulat dito? We want to indicate the keyword. For instance, we don't know that this is block. And we don't know the parameter that we need to add in this one. So to do that, we will be using the asterisk in the second parameter. So what it does is, in order for you to store a value in block, you need to declare block, or you need to assign within the parameter. So for instance, if this is used, magkaka-error since it uses this one. So if we do this one, it will run. No? Let's try it this way. Okay, hindi siya nagkamali siya, no? And hindi na siya nag-run. So that's the error there. So let me just comment it here. Oops. Let me comment it this way. Okay. Okay. Ayan. So when we run this one, okay, receive a message. So that's how we use this one. Okay. So next one, attaching the metadata. For instance, nahirapan ka, hindi ko alam kung ano yung data type ng function ko when I run it. Okay? And we can simply add the metadata here, to indicate what data type needs to be added on your function. And why do we need to use that? No, it's for its code readability. No, to make sure that it can easily be read. Okay? Yan, medyo mabagal ang internet ko kaya naglo-loading siya. Pero anyway, that's basically, but the same goes here. Wala naman nagbago. In-indicate mo lang kung ano yung data type. Okay? How about returning multiple values within a function? Diba, knowing a return statement, it only returns one value. But in Python, Python is unique. You can return multiple values. And you can see it here. Def, my function, then 1, 2, 3. So when we run this one, my function, you can store it in this way. A, B, C, which A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, C is equal to 3. When we run this code, yan. So this is the result. Okay. So next one, example number 6, our last example, defining anonymous or inline function. There are also types of different function, no? And you can also do a function in only one line. And we call it lambda. Lambda is only used for short functions. No, but this is not a good practice. But there are times that you need to use lambda expression, no, to make sure to shorten the code. Especially when you are creating in graphical user interfaces in Python. Okay? So you can see here, add is the variable, and then lambda, which represents that this is a function, and this is the first parameter, and this is the second parameter. You can see here 2 and 3. Then you can see here in the second parameter, it pertains, there's a colon, which pertains an operation, which is x plus y. No? So whatever the value of x here will be added here. Whatever the value of y here will be added here. So whatever the result here, no, will be put here. No, okay. No matter what the result here will be returned on this one. No, and to run this, you can see here it's 5. No, it's a bit confusing at first, but when you get used to it, it will make things much easier for you. Okay, so that's it, and I'll be uploading later an example or even our assessment. Now, so make sure to watch this video and also to read our instructions. And that's it. Thank you very much, everyone.